So with the upcoming total solar eclipse on April 8th, 2024, I just want to give you some advice on how to safely view the eclipse, but also how to enjoy the eclipse. So a solar eclipse is when the moon gets in between the sun and the earth and it blocks out the sun. Now there are three kinds of eclipses. There's a partial eclipse in which the sun is only partially blocked out. There's an annular eclipse in which the moon is just a little bit too far away from the earth to completely block out the sun, and it makes a ring. Sometimes it's called the Ring of Fire. I drove out to Roswell, New Mexico to see one. It's a pretty big event, but that's nothing compared to a total solar eclipse, in which the moon is close enough to Earth to completely block out the sun. It is a sight to behold. I was fortunate enough to see one back in 2019. I flew down to South America to see one, Totality, in which the moon completely blocks out the sun. Only lasted for about 2.5 minutes, and it was completely worth it. And that's the kind of eclipse that's coming up April 8th, 2024. So first, let's talk safety. Never view the sun directly with your eyes. You need to have some sort of protective equipment. Solar glasses are going to be the best thing to have during the eclipse. You'll be able to see the moon start to block out the sun, and you need to make sure that it meets this requirement. And the American Astronomical Society does put out a list of reputable vendors that you know you're going to get safe glasses from. Somebody once told me, don't wear a parachute to skydive, you wear a parachute to skydive twice. Same thing with solar eclipse glasses, right? You want to be able to enjoy the next one. That's why you want to be safe during this one. Now, the thing is, during a total eclipse, during totality, you can view the eclipse without any protective eyewear because the moon is going to be completely blocking the sun. And that's the only type of eclipse, and that's the only time where you can observe the eclipse without protective eyewear, during those few minutes of totality. You can also have a pair of binoculars. Now, they do sell solar binoculars. They're kind of expensive though. I had a regular pair of binoculars and I just made these solar filters by getting the solar lenses online and fitting some PVC around them. This is what I brought to South America to see the total eclipse because I did not want to bring my telescope to see it. If you don't want to go out and buy special solar binoculars or make solar filters on your own, a pair of binoculars is going to work fine because during totality, when the moon completely blocks out the sun, you will be able to look at it without any special lenses. Now, a telescope might be a little overkill, but once again, you do need that solar filter when looking directly at the sun. And not only for your eyes, but also because the magnification of a telescope is so powerful, it can actually melt parts of the telescope if it's aimed directly at the sun. I brought my telescope to Roswell to see it. That was only because I have an attachment that I can put on the telescope and I wanted to get some good photos and videos of that annular eclipse. Now here's what makes viewing a total solar eclipse so special. The moon is at about a 5-degree angle with the Earth, so most of the time the shadow of the moon completely misses the Earth. So only when that orbit is lined up with the Earth does the sun get blocked out from Earth. And because the moon is on elliptical orbit, sometimes it's not close enough to completely block out the sun, thus making an annular eclipse. And you have to be at the right spot at the right time on Earth to see the total solar eclipse. It's just a small shadow crossing over the Earth. And you also have to hope for good weather. So all of this has to go right in order for you to see a total solar eclipse. Now, a total solar eclipse is an event, right? Here's what you can expect. Everything's going to get a little bit dimmer because the sun is getting blocked out. Now, just before totality, the temperature can drop like up to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So maybe make sure you have a jacket or a sweatshirt ready. Some animals are going to start to act a little strange. Birds might start to fly. I know chickens are very light sensitive. Sometimes chickens roost. I've heard stories of fireflies coming out. Now, here's the thing. Just before totality, I would say like 1 to 2 minutes before totality, you're going to start to feel really weird. The main reason why you start to feel eerie is because of the shadows. Now, most of our lives, the sun is just a circular disk in the sky. Now, what happens is as the moon starts to block out the sun, the shadows start to look a little bit weird. While the partial eclipse is happening, you can see shadows like trees make weird shadows, and you can take like a colander and you can put it on the ground and it casts a lot of shadows and it'll make the shape of the current eclipse that is happening. And that 1 to 2 minutes before totality, it's going to be dim. The sun is going to be so thin that the shadows are going to be very crisp. And your brain doesn't really know that. It just says something's off because all the shadows around you are going to be very crisp and you just get a real sense of eeriness. And then totality happens. You'll be able to see the sun's corona in the sky. Now, every total eclipse is going to be different. One thing to look at is there's something called a 360-degree sunset. If you look around the entire horizon, it's going to look like a sunset on the horizon all the way around because you're just in a small shadow on the Earth during the day. Now here's the thing, the eclipse is beautiful. It's only gonna last for a few minutes. I recommend looking at it for a little bit. If you have binoculars, look at it, but take in everything around you. You're gonna remember the people that you're with. You're gonna remember their reactions. Look around at the 360-degree sunset. I flew down to South America to see the total eclipse that went through Chile and Argentina. And I remember staying at the hostel. I remember the people that I was with. I remember we went to the beach. I remember we stayed there the whole day. We became really good friends because of this one event, and that's what I remember. The totality only lasted for about 2.5 minutes there, and I remember the eclipse, but what I remember more is that actual experience, the actual event. So don't forget to just take a step back, look around, see what's happening, remember who you're with, look at their reactions, and just take it all in. Now during the eclipse, you'll probably want to get a photo of it. You don't really want to aim your camera lens directly at the sun. It does have the possibility to damage the camera on your phone. Now the digital zoom on your camera won't be good enough to get a decent photo of the eclipse. You have to go out and get one of those devices that clips onto your camera that is like a manual zoom. It's sort of like a small telescope on your camera. They're not really that expensive, and you can really find them anywhere on the internet. You should also use something to keep your phone stationary, like a tripod. Once you have your camera in the tripod and you're ready to take a picture, I recommend putting a 5-second delay on it. That's enough of a time to where your phone is going to stop moving. When you're zooming in on something far away, any kind of motion can make it blurry and the photo isn't going to really come out that well. Here's my recommendation as far as taking a photo of the eclipse. Don't try to get a photo of the eclipse. Unless you have practice with photography or astrophotography and have pretty good equipment, I would recommend just enjoying the experience. There are people out there that are going to take really good photos of the eclipse, and you can view those later. During the eclipse, that's not really the time to start practicing with techniques that you've never tried. And totality only lasts for a few minutes. You don't want to remember that time as fumbling with your phone or settings or putting it in the tripod. When I saw the eclipse in South America, I remember trying to line up my phone with the binoculars, and I spent like 5-10 seconds trying to do it, and I thought to myself, why am I doing this? I should just enjoy the eclipse. Now, if you want to capture the moment, here's some pictures that I recommend you take. The first one, during the eclipse, take a panoramic photo. That's going to capture everything happening in that moment. You're going to be able to see all the people looking at the eclipse. You're going to be able to see the 360-degree sunset. And if the sky is clear, you will be able to see the eclipse happening in the sky. That's a very good photo to capture everything that's happening during the eclipse at that moment. Another thing you can do to remember the eclipse, take a video right before the eclipse, like 1 to 2 minutes. That's when that eeriness happens. You'll be able to catch everyone's reaction, even your reaction, you'll be able to capture that. And like I said, the shadows are going to be weird. You can do interesting things with the shadows, like take the colander out. You can take pictures of that. Those are really cool photos that you can take to remember it without making totality frustrating. There are also cool little crafts you can do. Like if you take a small piece of paper and poke holes in it, spell something out, you cast it on your hand or the ground, you can make it say something cool with the shadows of the eclipse. Now here are just some final takeaways. Number 1, safety first. Never look at the sun directly without proper eye protection. And take a step back and be sure to enjoy the experience.